Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah.
Yasa Tato Jayam Udiraye. We're reading from the Srimad Bhāgavatam. The translation is, this is Prahlad Maharaj, as you well know, better than me, speaking, saying his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev just after the killing of Hiranyakashipu. All the other great souls in the universe who had been unceremoniously taken away from their services had, during the advent of Hiranyakashipu, after his austerity, had been bestowed great power by Lord Brahma, and then he proceeded to ruin the natural course of Vedic culture and deprive people of their natural right for service, for performing yajna. He had stripped away the powers of the siddhas, the services of the charanas, and all of these great souls had come before Lord Nrsingadev and offered their prayers to pacify him. But the Lord wasn't pacified. Even Lakshmi Devi hardly recognized this form of the Lord, although she's the most intimate with him. He was so angry, and she had never seen such a fantastical form of the Lord. So even she was hesitant to come before Lord Nrsingadev, or she had tried and he wasn't pacified. The end result was that all of the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, pushed forward Prahlad Maharaj and said, "You try. He came for you, so you should try." And then Prahlad, meditating on the possibility of offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, considered that all these great souls have already tried to pacify the Lord. He thought, what is my qualification? And then he remembered Gajendra, Bhaktya Tutosha Bhagavan Gajayutapaya, and he began to get the strength because he thought Gajendra was an elephant. But because he was sincere and he offered prayers to the Lord accepted his prayers. And therefore, he concluded that if I'm sincere, if anyone's sincere and they offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he'll certainly accept those offerings of words. And so he's offered many prayers. This is one of the kind of esoteric philosophical prayers that he offers to Lord Nrsingadev. And he says, "My dear Lord, everyone in this material world is under the modes of material nature, being influenced by goodness, passion, and ignorance." Sound familiar so far? What did I just read? Someone tell me. What was the first sentence? I'll say it again. "My dear Lord, everyone in this material world is under the modes of material nature, being influenced by goodness, passion, and ignorance." What did you hear? Someone say.
That we are under the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance.
What about the modes? You said what about the modes?
Modes.
Yes, what about them?
That we are influenced.
Yes.
We are influenced.
Yeah. So he's mentioning that everyone's influenced by the modes of material nature in this world. So, thank you, Prabhu. So he says, does Prahlad, "My dear Lord, everyone in this material world is under the modes of material nature, being influenced by goodness, passion, and ignorance." So, who does everyone include? When he says everyone, who does that include? Prabhu is pointing to himself. He's going like this. Everyone, all of us. What about Prime Minister? Or President? Or how about demigods? Yes? Okay. Could you prove it from the Bhagavad Gita? Is there a verse in the Gita where Krishna says everyone, without exception, is under the modes of material nature? When Lord Nrsimha, they broke from the pillar, was much louder than that. Because actually they heard it all over the universe. Everyone was afraid, and they were thinking that the end of the universe was coming. That was pretty close, but who has the Gita? You look up the verse. Some pundit? Maya Jashena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Konteya. Translation? It doesn't have to be exact, but give me why you've quoted the verse. Huh? Speak into the mic so we can hear you.
I'm superintendent for the movie and non-movie material creatures in this universe.
And?
Everything's working under my direction.
Okay, everyone's working in my direction, but I want one that says specifically where he says, even the devas, everyone's under the modes of nature. You find it? I'll keep reading. Okay, listen, second line. Everyone from the greatest personality, Lord Brahma, down to the small ant, works under the influence of these modes. I just want to ask you, do the ants work under the modes of nature?
Yes.
Only one person said yes. Do the ants work under the modes of nature?
Yes.
The answer is?
Yes.
Correct, yes. Even the ants. Lord Brahma, how about Lord Brahma? Is Lord Brahma under the modes of material nature? Sir, please tell me.
Yes.
Yes. How about an ant?
Yes.
Yes. How about a verse from the Brahma Samhita that says, from Indra down to the Indragopa germ, everyone's under the influence of karma. Everyone who knows it say, Yes Twindragopa Matavindra Mahosa Karma Pandana Rupa Palabhajana Matadoti Karmani Nirdoti Kintu Bhakti Bhajan Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Brahma confirms himself in the Brahma Samhita. He says, from Indra down to the Indragopa germ, everyone is under the influence of this karma, under the modes of material nature. Therefore, everyone in this material world is influenced by your energy. The cause for which they work, the place where they work, the time when they work, the matter due to which they work, the goal of life they have considered final, and the process for obtaining this goal, all are nothing but manifestations of your energy. Indeed, since the energy and the energetic are identical, all of them are manifestations of you. Did everyone hear it? Yes or yes? Okay, I'm going to read it again. Please listen. Prahlad says, my dear Lord, everyone in this material world is under the modes of material nature, being influenced by goodness, passion, and ignorance. Everyone from the greatest personality, Lord Brahma, down to the small ant, works under the influence of these modes. Therefore, everyone in this material world is influenced by your energy. The cause for which they work, the place where they work, the time when they work, the matter due to which they work, the goal of life they have considered final, and the process for obtaining this goal, all are nothing but manifestations of your energy. Indeed, since the energy and the energetic are identical, all of them are but manifestations of you. What are some of the circumstances or places that Prahlad mentioned that are manifestations of the external energy? They're manifestations of the Lord through his external energy. What were they? The cause for which they work? What else? place,
manner,
the manner, time, the goal. Yeah. Good, thank you. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Whether one thinks himself protected by his parents, by the government, by some place, or by some other cause, everything is due to the various potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything that is done, whether in the higher, middle, or lower planetary systems, is due to the supervision or control of the Supreme Lord. It is therefore said, Karmana Daiva Netrena Jantur Deopapataye. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul within the core of everyone's heart, gives inspirations for action according to one's mentality. I'm going to read that again. Everyone please listen. The last sentence. Are you ready? Say yes.
Yes.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul within the core of everyone's heart, gives inspirations for action according to one's mentality. Did you hear it? Are you sure?
Yes. Yes.
You want to hear it one more time? Say yes.
Yes.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul within the core of everyone's heart, gives inspirations for action according to one's mentality. What is your mentality? Anyone? You want to say it? Okay, he's smiling, so he should say. Tell us what your mentality is. He's right behind the pillar. Prabhu, what is your name? Kurukshetra? Harikshetra Prabhu, what is your mentality? I don't think so. You look very effulgent to me. So a devotee would say something like that. But it's interesting, isn't it? According to the mentality that I keep as my attitude, the Lord reciprocates in a certain way. I'll read it one more time. Listen. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul within the core of everyone's heart, gives inspirations for action according to one's mentality. Give back to Harikshetra Prabhu. Prabhu, what are some of the mentalities that people have in general, categories of mentality people might have that the Lord might reciprocate with?
Like the four kinds of people that they come to.
Can you hear him? I can't hear him. Can you hold that closer?
Four kinds of people that they come to the Lord.
Okay.
One who approaches for relief from his distress, and one who's inquisitive, and one who's in search of knowledge.
Pretty good. See, his mind goes right to the Shastra. He doesn't concoct anything. He thinks of categories. According to Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Chatura vida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna, arto jignasa artarti jnani cha bharatarshava. Krishna says there's four kinds of pious people, sukritis. Some of them approach him thinking, I need money. Some people, they're in misery, so they want to alleviate the misery. Some are inquisitive, and some are in knowledge of the absolute truth. What are four kinds of other people of the demoniac mentality? Namam duskritunu buddha prapadyante naradana maya pritagyana asuram bhavamya ashita. So these are four kinds of people with a what mentality? Demoniac. Right, so the Lord is saying, the Srila Prabhupada is saying here that according to one's mentality, and these are at least 8 categories of mentalities, and there are many, many more according to the combinations of the modes of material nature, right? That the Lord reciprocates with them appropriately. Who could prove that by a Bhagavad Gita verse? Everyone together. Ye yatam mat prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmana vartanta manusha partha sarvashaha. So Krishna says it also in the Bhagavad Gita, according to your mentality, according to how you're approaching me, and everyone's approaching me, he says, that's the way I reciprocate. That's good to know, isn't it? Important? Hari? Important to know, correct? Yes. Okay. Next is, all of these mentalities are merely facilities given by Krishna to the person acting. That's interesting. Bhagavad Gita therefore says, Matak smitir jnanam apohanam cha. Everyone works according to the inspiration given by the Supersoul. Because everyone has a different goal of life, everyone acts differently as guided by the Supreme. Are created by the living entity and fulfilled by the mercy of the Lord. Although all such activities are non-different from the Lord nonetheless directs Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja. Give up all other duties and surrender unto me. When we accept this direction from the Lord, we can actually become happy. As long as we work according to our material senses, we're in material life. But as soon as we act according to the real, transcendental direction of the Lord, our position is spiritual. The activities of bhakti, devotional service, are directly under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Narada Pancharatra states, Sarvapadi Vanir Bhuktam Taprapvena Nirbalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchate. When one gives up materially designated positions and works directly under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's spiritual life is revived. This is described as Swarupena Avastati, being situated in one's original constitutional position. This is the real description of mukti, or liberation from material bondage. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadhutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanande, Hare Hare Bol. Bharata Prabhu, thank you very much for inviting us to your beautiful temple and for the service that you and all the devotees here are doing to spread the Sankirtan movement. I was deeply touched by your introduction, the words I aspire to live up to in some lifetime. And it's a great honor to be back here in Bengaluru. And so you can hear the Sanskrit of this beautiful verse. I'll read it out loud. Yasmin yato yarhi yena cha yasya yasmad yasmayata yad uta yastva parova bhava karoti vikaroti pratuk sabhava sanchoditas tadakilam bhavatak swarupam. My dear Lord, everyone in this material world is under the modes of material nature, being influenced by goodness, passion, and ignorance. Everyone from the greatest personality, Lord Brahma, down to the small ant, works under the influence of these modes. Therefore, everyone in this material world is influenced by your energy. The cause for which they work, the place where they work, the time when they work, and the matter due to which they work. The goal of life they have considered final, and the process for obtaining this goal, all are nothing but manifestations of your energy. Indeed, since the energy and the energetic are identical, all of them are but manifestations of you. And I was just listening to Srila Prabhupada speaking about how the various important positions in this world ultimately aren't so important, considering that we're not our bodies. The various endeavors, that is, that are those dedicated to preserving the body and the civilization which is based around the bodily conception of life. Although anywhere you go in the world, or in the universe for that matter, people generally think that they are the body, and that the goal of life is to somehow or other find a comfortable situation here in this material world. It's big news to people when they hear someone say, you're not your body, and the goal of life has nothing to do with finding comfort in the material world. It's counterintuitive to what is being taught all over the world. And there's a huge level of distraction that people have from being able to understand that, because it seems as if there's been some success in finding material happiness. For instance, in India, when I fly into either Delhi or Mumbai, I noticed that the first thing that the government or whoever designed the airport wants me to see is the duty-free shop. You have to walk through duty-free. Are you all familiar with these airports? As soon as you walk in, you don't have any choice. You have to walk through duty-free. And what is the great production in the duty-free shop? It's tobacco, alcohol, perfume, and chocolate. These are the four great offerings that I'm shown as soon as I walk into the country that is noted for its philosophical discoveries and acharyas. But here I'm being presented with alcohol, tobacco, perfume, and chocolate. And I must say, overpriced. Even though it's being presented as duty-free, that's another kind of, what did I read? Fraudsterism. So the whole world, Prabhupada said, is going on as a colossal hoax. This seems like an unusually harsh criticism to many people. For instance, in the United States of America, everyone's very proud of their country. They'll stand up and sing an anthem to the flag of America. And however, it's only been invented recently, the whole system of government there. And just a couple hundred years ago, actually, some people got together and wrote down some ideas about how to live in a certain way. And although everyone's coming into the world naked and leaving it naked again, not able to take anything with them, everyone thinks that I am this body, my family is very important, my nation's very important, and the legacy I leave behind in relationship to my body is very important also. But Prabhupada points out that many people have thought like that in the past and actually have achieved some modicum of success in the material world. For instance, there have been emperors who have ruled for many years successfully. And then, of course, they all end up being, as Prahlad Maharaj says in this chapter, crushed by the wheel of time. And even Prahlad Maharaj saw that his father, Hiranyakashipu, was the best of the demons. Prahlad even said it, you're the best demon I've ever seen. Suryavarya Dehinam. And he said, I saw that you got everything by force, by the force of your austerity, but it was taken away within a second. Therefore, why would I want anything? I've already seen that you can't hold on to it. And therefore, an intelligent person will examine the circumstances he or she is in and try to understand what is really the purpose of life. And this is the main idea. In the Srimad Bhāgavatam it is said that meaning this is the main purpose of human life is to inquire like this and ask the question, why am I here? Kamasya nendriya pritir labo jivete yavata jivasya tattva jignasya narto yasceha karmabhi. Life's desires aren't for developing a comfortable situation in the material world, because it's not possible to, by my personal arrangement, to become more comfortable in the world. There's a certain amount of happiness and a certain amount of distress that's already allotted to each person. And no matter how much arrangement I make in the material nature, I won't be able to increase either side of the ledger. This is something that Narada says to Vyasadeva, Tasyaya vaheto prayateta kovidun, nalabyate tad brahmatam upariyada, talabyate dukkha varanyata sukham, kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. That don't try for decreasing distress or increasing material happiness, because you'll notice that they come of their own accord. Just as he says, nobody likes misery. Anyone? You pray for it? Please say no. No, you don't pray for misery or bad luck. You wake up in the morning and say, let bad luck come today? No. But he said, does it come anyway sometimes? Yeah, so he said this in the same way. Good luck, so-called good luck also comes, or happiness comes. So he said, don't try for these things. But that's what the whole material civilization is doing, is trying to position in such a way as to invite good fortune or be more comfortable in the material modes of nature. It's not possible. However, he says, if you try for spiritual advancement, that's possible. You can advance on that level. Therefore, use your human life for that. One other comment is that the ways that we feel ourselves protected, this is mentioned in the purport, these are actually manifestations of the Supreme Lord. For instance, when we come into this world, we get a set of parents. And parents become very dear to us, right? Please say yes. Unless you had a very bad childhood, you don't have to raise your hand. But generally, the parents have a lasting effect on us. We see them as our main protectors, and when they leave this world, it's a very melancholy experience that we're losing our dear friends, our mother, our father, that they're going away. However, as Prahlad is saying in this verse, these are actually manifestations of the Lord's mercy, but through the modes of material nature. They're masks. Prabhupada mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita, that if you take the feeling of the love of your mother, can everyone imagine that? The love of your mother? How much she loves you? Say yes. Yes. And then he says, multiply that millions of times, and that's Krishna's affection for us and the way he takes care of us. But it's not insignificant, the love of a mother, because it's Krishna. But it's a manifestation Krishna is showing us through the material nature. Also, he mentions, does Prahlad Maharaj here, that the way we work and the way we get paid. So if anybody's working, anyone here work? Do you get paid? Say yes, otherwise you wouldn't be working. That's Krishna. That's his energy. He's saying directly, that's Krishna's energy. He's the one supplying it, not your boss. This is a revelation, because if one realizes that actually Krishna is my maintainer, he's the one who's maintaining every living entity, that changes my perspective in life very much. So, this is information that you won't find anywhere else, and it is extremely important because, for one reason it's important is because we can always see Krishna within everything, in all circumstances. Whatever's happening to us, whether it seems to be good or bad, we can understand this is happening by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord through His multifarious energies. Parasya Shaktir Vivadai Vishriyate. And a devotee has this mentality. Tate anukampam susumikshmano bunjana evatma kritam vibhakam. And that is that whatever is happening to me now is being arranged through the Lord's multifarious energies, through His inconceivable power. And it's His mercy for me. So that's very important. We can always see the Lord's hand within everything. And the second point is that, as is said by Srila Vyasadeva in the first verse of the Bhāgavatam, Teni Brahma Hridaya Adikaveye Muhyanti Yat Sureyaha. Everyone's bewildered by this. Don't think that people in materialistic society, just because they have a modicum of success, that they have some wisdom. This is wisdom. And the flashy show of material life or developing technology is not really wisdom. It's a different category of knowledge. As said in the Sri Upanishad, Vidyam cha yas tadvedopayam saha avidyayam ratun tirtva vidyayam ratum ashrite. One result is obtained by actual knowledge, and another result is obtained by worship, by a knowledge that is mundane. And we should know the difference between the two. So the conclusion is, it's extremely important to understand, one, that everything is Krishna in various energies. He's manifesting in different energies in my life. And to see His hand in my life. And a second point is to understand that the world needs this information. They need living entities need the Bhāgavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. And all kinds of other technical information, not so much. It's not that important. In comparison to Bhāgavatam, technical knowledge that you would learn at a technical university and the prestige that one might get by developing or imbibing that knowledge is not so important compared to the Bhāgavatam, the knowledge of the Bhāgavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Many people that you'll meet as you're spreading the Krishna consciousness movement may present it in the opposite way. They may think that technical knowledge is important, whereas Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhāgavatam, it's quaint. It's something from ancient history, and maybe it's for a little peace of mind so that I can be better, I can enjoy my material comforts in a better way by having some peace of mind. So take heart that the knowledge that you're taking in from the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhāgavatam is the knowledge. It's the perfect knowledge. And that the ways that you're working in the world to disseminate this knowledge are absolutely authorized, not just authorized, but absolutely necessary. Unless a living entity gets an opportunity to hear this type of knowledge, this category of knowledge we're discussing today, then they'll go on perpetually in the material world without any respite at all. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami, and this is the last point I'm going to make before I take reflections and questions, is he said, Maya Bhugda Jivara Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan. Without getting knowledge about Krishna, then the living entity doesn't automatically come out of ignorance. It doesn't happen automatically. Harisari Prabhu was telling Prabhupada that it's very difficult to preach in Australia. This was in 1970. And Prabhupada said, yes, of course it's difficult, but that doesn't mean we don't go. And also, someone said to Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, the people, they're very dedicated to this illusory work that they're doing and so forth. But Prabhupada said, that's why you have to preach vigorously. Because if you don't, then how are they going to come out of it? So the endeavor you're taking to maintain this organization here, there's pressures when you do something like this. From internal pressures, there are external pressures. It takes a lot of work. Just as it takes work to get a technical degree and then go out in the world and work, there's lots of pressure. So similarly, when you work for Krishna consciousness, there's going to be pressure from all sides. That's good pressure. It's pressure that's purifying. You get credit for that pressure. The other kinds of pressure, not so much. You may work hard, you may get a degree, you may do so many things. I'm not trying to disparage getting degrees or anything like that. I'm just saying that it's not as important as what you're doing here. And the trouble that you're taking to do this is not only purifying, it's absolutely necessary for the human society. And you will and are making a difference. Every time that you perform the austerity, to wake up early in the morning to chant Hare Krishna, you're making an eternal contribution that is inconceivably important. And what to speak of when you go out and you take the trouble to teach others Krishna consciousness. When they don't agree with you, when they put obstacles in your way, the endeavor that you take to overcome those obstacles, that becomes your spiritual blood, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, for your spiritual body. So those are a couple of observations from this very interesting verse from Prahlad Maharaj. And now we'll take a few reflections, which means anything that you heard so far from the verse or the monologue that you want to reflect back, or if you have a question that pertains to something related to what we're talking about that will expand the conversation in a meaningful way, then ask a question. Does that sound fair? Prabhu?
I have a question.
Okay, but would you mind taking the microphone before you speak?
So recently, a few days back, I went through an article you had wrote on Dandavats.com. So my question is, how do we actually set up realistic working goals to expand preaching?
Realistic goals to set up to expand preaching?
Goal setting.
Well, meet with those who are involved in the preaching. I find that there's a lot of transcendental insight that comes out of meeting with devotees who are engaged in the activity and through brainstorming. That's one of the first things that I see in management. It's important to get together and talk about things and say, how's it working? So one of the ways that I've found success in doing this personally and also amongst groups is when you get together with those who are vitally interested in the process of spreading Krishna consciousness, to ask two questions. One question is, what is working well and where's there room for improvement? And when you can make a list of room for improvements, then you have something to work on. And so if you make it a goal to make at least 3 improvements every month, I find that this keeps everyone really interested and engaged. And then if you're seeing what works well, you can augment those kinds of things, because there's always an 80-20 rule. 20% of the activities get 80% of the result. So it's good to know what's working and what's not working. And then the other thing is to write it down. Because if you find out things that count in your life or for your expansion of Krishna consciousness, then learn how to count them. The more you can count them and measure them, the more you can see whether you're making progress or not. And this is something that applies not just to spreading Krishna consciousness, but also to our personal sadhana. Sankhya purvaka namagana natibikalavasani krito. The Goswamis notes Srinivasacharya, they counted everything, right? Sankhya, purvaka, numerical strength. In their sadhana, how many times did they chant, how many times did they bow down, and so forth. So that's a goal that one can set. For instance, who here knows what date you'll next finish the Bhāgavatam? Raise your hand if you know what date you're going to finish the Bhāgavatam on. So this is a goal that you can set. And years ago I was looking at the Bhāgavatam and I was thinking, how am I going to read this whole Bhāgavatam? It's so big, I can't do it. And then I heard a lecture, someone talked about how to get any big task done, you break it into small parts. And so, together with another devotee, we started counting all the pages of the Bhāgavatam. And then we figured there's a finite number of pages. At least in the Bhāgavatam we have on this planet, On other planets, it says in the Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami said there are other Bhagavatams that have millions of cantos. Imagine going door to door with those. People would have to move out of their house in order to put the Bhagavatam in there. We only have 12 cantos. So if you count how many pages you have, then you can divide it up into parts. So for instance, I know as a fact, this is a scientific fact because I did the math, that if you read 41 pages of Bhagavatam every day, then you'll finish all 12 cantos within 1 year. Yay! Everyone say yay! And how would you feel if you read the whole Bhagavatam in 1 year? The answer is much better. That's how to feel better. If you want to feel better, read the whole Bhagavatam in 1 year. If you have any complaints about the way your life's going, read the Bhagavatam in 1 year and see if it helps. If others have complaints about you, read the whole Bhagavatam and see what happens. You'll notice that it gets better. So count things and write down your goals. Because if you write them down and commit to them, then life becomes exciting. And Prabhupada said, in management, you should always have a new goal so that devotees in a community, so that devotees want to rise up. He said a fresh challenge. Make a fresh challenge so everyone wants to rise up and meet it. And when you have a fresh challenge and you think that you can't make it, is that possible? Have you ever made a challenge like in your temple here and you thought, how are we ever going to do this? Have you ever thought that, Prabhu? What is your name? What is the name? Dhameshwara. Dhameshwara Prabhu, did you ever think these goals are a little too high? How are we going to do it? Say yes. Just say yes. Yes, say yes. Yes, thank you. So what do? You pray to Lord Chaitanya. It's His movement. And so, dear Lord Chaitanya, if you so desire, please help us make these goals. And this is what a movement is. A movement has to move. Where are you moving? Up, hopefully. And if you're going to move up, you have to make goals that are upward goals. And then you say, how can we be a little bit better? And then you say, how are we going to do it? Well, you have to plan for it, like we were just talking about, and you have to pray to Lord Chaitanya. And when you make it, despite the fact that it looks impossible, that's when the whole community starts to feel like, yes, we're powered by Lord Chaitanya. We're powered by Lord Chaitanya's glance. And that's what we're going for. There's no end to how high we can go. I mean, everyone can keep building more and more, and they can keep doing more and more numbers. So it's not exactly how high we go, it's how we do it in the process, how we're developing faith in Lord Chaitanya as we're moving forward. I always tell our devotees back at ISV, I say, it's not so important what we do as how we do it. If we're working together in a spirit of cooperation and we're doing it in such a way that's pleasing to the Lord. Am I running out of time? Is that what that means?
20 more minutes.
How much?
20 more.
24 more minutes? That's a lot.
20.
20 minutes. Okay, I'll take what I can get. Okay, so other points. Dhameshwara, after I usurped what you were going to say, please go ahead.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your honor.
Can't hear you. We need technical support in the front row.
So I have one reflection and one doubt.
Yes, Prabhu.
My reflection is that since everybody in the material world are influenced somehow or other by the three modes of material nature. So since the Lord is Apurusheya, so we have to take shelter of the Lord, and that way we can actually come out of the modes of material nature. So this is one reflection from the class. And then another doubt is that, so that we can see lower species of life, like ants and all. So practically they do nothing. So they have
Apparently they what?
Because
No, what did he say?
beings,
Apparently they
they
know nothing.
They do nothing.
Okay.
They do nothing. Like if you take human form of life, so we do so much Ugra Dharma and we are influenced by the modes of material nature. So my doubt is that is it correct that the lower species of life they are less influenced by three modes of material nature than the human form of life?
They're less influenced by the modes of material nature? Is that what you asked? Well, first of all, it's not true the ants know nothing. they know engineering without going to engineering school. If you look at sea, and plus they know how to organize a society. They know how to go in the right lane, left lane. If you watch the Nature Channel or National Geographic, they have programs where they'll look into an anthill and show you how they live. They have city hall. They have even bees have a queen. They have monarchy. Everyone follows the queen. Birds are smart too. You watch these birds around this time of year where I live in California. They're all heading south because it's getting cold. It's like, who told them? And who told them to fly in a V like this also? They're flying in a V, so there's less wind drag on the ones behind them, and then they switch places. They also, if one of them falls out, two of them go after the goose, and they stay with them until they can get back up and go. So animals are just like we are. They're smart as anything. They just don't have religion, that's all. It's the only thing they're missing. So they're more influenced by the modes of material nature because they don't, at that present time, have the wherewithal to come out of the modes of nature. Unless, of course, they meet Lord Chaitanya, Jarikanda. But it takes human body to be able to understand one's agency. We have agency to actually improve ourselves and come out of the modes of material nature. But animals are not aware of that agency. So they're more influenced by the modes of material nature. Yeah. Ahara nidra bhaya maitanam cha samanyameta pashubi naranam. So a human and an animal are exactly the same. Like if you ever looked, I came into my room the other day and there was a spider on my desk. And I was like, what are you doing here? And he looked at me and goes, what are you doing here? I mean, he's fully conscious. He's a conscious living, it's a person. He just doesn't chant japa or think about, spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. Same, he's looking at me like, I'm same as you. Why are you bugging me? Why are you bothering me? I just have as much right to live. I'm a person too. So all these animals are people. They don't get the part about thinking about God. What other questions or reflections? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful class. Puri, I have a question that you were talking about setting a goal and the entire community or an entire unit, for example, family, trying to move towards it. So now my question is that generally in such cases, you are limited by the weakest link that is there in the community or in the family. Let's say if someone is not very inspired to move towards that goal, so should we first, how do we inspire them, or how do we also bring them to the same vision that we want to have, or how do we make them move at the same pace that we want to?
Good question. Thank you very much. One point is, I'll just give an example in the context of Sankirtan, because everyone likes to talk about Sankirtan, right? Say yes. Yes. Okay. So Sankirtan, let's say book distribution, to be very specific, is something that you can measure. That's why, one of the reasons I like it so much. It's very measurable. You know how many books went out. You know how many dollars or rupees came in. So rupees don't lie. So now, let's say you have a big community and you're setting a goal for book distribution, and some people are more inspired than others to take part. Well, it may not be that they're not inspired. It may mean that they have a different way that they can participate. So in encouraging everyone in a community, obviously people are going to have different mindsets, mentalities, talents, and so forth. It's good to find a way to include everyone in the goal. For instance, just with book distribution. When we first started off in our community, which started around the year 2000, we put a special emphasis on book distribution, and we said that you can participate in any way that you like. You can go out yourself with the team. At that time it was about 3 people. Or you can give money to help support it. And another way is you can do backup services like cooking or helping to pack books or transport devotees from one place to the next. Or you can advocate for it. That means if you're not able to do the other three, that's fine also. Just be an advocate and say, hey, this is a good idea. Just say those words. And you're in. And the way we conceived of it is we're all for one and one for all. We're working as one full team, and everyone has their way of contributing according to their particular situation at the time. And when you consider that, and you consider, for instance, we do team scores. We don't emphasize as much individual scores, because I found that there's a way in which when you emphasize individual scores for book distribution, then the ones who are really good at doing more books, they get a lot of glory, and the ones that can't, they decide they're not going to go out because it's hard to compete on that level. So we do it, we've always done it at our temple as one team score, how we're all doing as a team. So thinking in terms of a combined effort and working together and seeing how everyone can be encouraged, that is something that helps with the phenomena you're discussing. What other questions or reflections do you all have in the next 10 minutes that we probably have? Be proactive. Ask a question or give a reflection, please. Yes, Varda Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
When we go out and we see people, and then they're so completely immersed in the materialistic endeavors or so on. And then they believe they're doing the right thing, and what they're doing is right. What we are doing is wrong. And pursuing bhakti is why you want to start so early. What is this kind of bhakti? We also go to temples, why like that? So, and then from one side we also hear that this movement is going to spread far and wide, and be large numbers of devotees. But sometimes when you sit back and reflect and see, it seems kind of improbable that we grow so much in numbers, because, I would say even in India, maybe the number of people coming to temples will increase and visit this temples, they will like it. But will they actually change and transform? That's a big question. So
Yes.
How are we going to make big numbers?
Thank you, Prabhu. What an important question, especially for positioning and for morale. Because, of course, we could go back to the old cliche, is your glass half full or half empty? Actually, this morning when I was just getting ready for the day, I was listening to the lecture of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was talking to Indians. And I don't know what year it was, I didn't check on my little box, but Prabhupada was admonishing the Indians, and they were saying, oh, these Americans, they're taking to Krishna consciousness. How about you guys? How come you Indians aren't taking it? And now, look what happened. So, in one way, you have to think like a farmer. When you know you have good seeds, you know that they're going to, if you take care to plant them, they're going to grow somehow or other. And recently, Vijay Prabhu, the book distribution minister, asked me to write an introduction to his new book. His book is mostly anecdotes of incidents where devotees had met somebody else, the person got a book, and then their life was inextricably changed, right? And so as I was reading through, I had to read the whole book in order to write the introduction. I was thinking, wow, it's amazing how effective the transcendental knowledge is in these books. And look what the effect they have on a person. And then the next thought was, these are only the ones we know about. There's only a tiny percentage that come to our attention. And we can say, oh, this happened to such and such person, it's recorded. But if you, from studying Shastra, like the 6th canto of the Bhāgavatam, the section of Vajamil, a fire will act. Whether you know how it works or it doesn't work, it's going to act, right? So my next thought was, well, these are acting everywhere we go. When I say these, like I'm saying books. When a book goes out, it has an effect. I may not see it, but it has an effect, and it will come. So just as at one point there was nothing happening ISKCON-wise in India, and it was very hard to get an Indian to join the Krishna consciousness movement, but now it's hard to get an Indian to not join the Krishna conscious movement. I mean, it's widespread all over India. So it's obviously there was an effect, from that. So one way of looking at it is that way, which is the glass is half full. And being very optimistic that whatever we do to spread transcendental knowledge will have its effect. And the other way to look at it is the glass half empty, which is also a valid way to look at it, because it is half full or half empty. And that way it could also be inspiring. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushanam sahasreshu kashid yati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kashid mam veti tatvataha, that it's a very rare thing. And that also lines up. If you look and you see, how people are affected by the modes of material nature, as we just heard in this verse, even the demigods are affected by the modes of material nature. So it stands to reason, when you present your idea to somebody, they're going to go, that's no good. Right? So, either way, we can see that it's, whether it's very difficult to spread Krishna consciousness, and we may make a case for that only rare souls come. That we can see in Shastra, that's true. And on the other side, we can also, if you're a very optimistic type of person, you can say, no, but look it's actually on every continent of the world. There's temples everywhere. The holy name is going on, books are going out, and I like to meet it right in the middle, because that's the most effective. If you get too much on one side and just say everything's fine, we're spreading all over the world, nothing can stop us, then we won't innovate and try to get better. We'll just think, we got a monopoly, and all you have to do is chant, and everyone will just naturally transform, which is somewhat true according to Shastra. But on the other side, if I get too negative and I say, nothing's really happening. And you can hear either one if you just go on the internet. So some people say, ISKCON's going nowhere, they're on the wrong track, everything's wrong. One of my godbrothers I just saw made a comment, very intelligent devotee, was saying every endeavor goes off track. I mean, look at Vyasadeva. If he can go off track, why do you think the 5th chapter of the Bhāgavatam, the 1st canto, his guru Narada comes and Vyasadeva says, I'm off track. What's going wrong? So Narada says, here's how you get back on track. You got to talk about Krishna a little bit more. So adjusting the message is very important. We can't think all day long that, it's fine. Whatever we do, it doesn't matter because we have the holy name. And we can't also go to the other side and think it's futile because look what we're up against. So position right in the middle where you say that it's important to refine the message in such a way that people can take it, and also that we have some follow through. Like here in India, there have been so much success in figuring out how to make devotees, right? Like when I think of Radhesham Prabhu and what he's done in Pune at developing programs so that I was told that if you watch his college program, that by a certain level, say there's 7 presentations, and by the 5th presentation, if the student comes back, you know that he or she's going to join, right? Is that true? Yeah, it's true. I mean, so we need innovation like that. We need to think about it, but at the same time, we shouldn't become morose and think it's a futile task. Does that help? There's more to say about that, but Prabhu.
So, as a manager, we have limited resources. So
you do? As a manager, you have infinite resources? I'm going to come to Bangalore. Okay, go ahead.
So there is always a question whether to invest the resources on something like book distribution industries where we don't know whether we may get the results, or something like courses where we can apparently see the results. So how much to do?
Yeah, this is another one of positioning kind of in the middle, in my opinion. Because sometimes people will say, listen, you've done 500 million books, where's the 500 million devotees? Where'd you get that calculation anyway? Is that one way to start is to understand that transmitting transcendental knowledge in and of itself is a valid activity. Even if you don't see any result, it's still a valid activity. Punya Shravana Kirtana. Just by speaking Bhāgavatam, it has a powerful effect on anyone who hears it, anyone who speaks it, everybody else in between. There's no doubt about that. So you could make the argument very easily that just by doing book distribution and not doing anything else, which is not what I argue, by the way, is valid. There's nothing wrong with that. And I can't then negate book distribution by saying, oh yes, but where's all the result? You have to understand that the result is there by the power of the transcendental transmission of the knowledge itself. That's there in Shastra. At the same time, again, in the way of balance, when you have resources to allocate, you have to do it intelligently and draw a diagram and say, where do you want people to go? For instance, what are the different categories of people that we're coming in contact with? And what are their likelihood of coming forward closer to Krishna consciousness? If you have an idea of which way you want to move people, then you have an idea of how you allocate the resources. And then you can analyze how it's done. So you have to have some practicality in doing that, but you also have to have transcendental vision. And Prabhupada had that. For instance, his point was he went to the park and he chanted Hare Krishna. And someone might say, where's your return on investment on that after 9 months? And, after a year, that's when a couple devotees showed up. And even then, Prabhupada had transcendental vision. He saw that, no, the holy name has potency. Bhagavad Gita class has potency. How do you think the Krishna conscious movement started in the first place? Advaita Acharya sat at his home and gave open class on Bhagavad Gita. That's how the Krishna conscious movement started. Then he prayed for Lord Chaitanya, please come and help me. I mean, that doesn't make sense on a business plan necessarily. But that's how our movement does expand. So you have to be able to count and make goals in a reasonable way, and you also have to keep the transcendental vision together at the same time. And that's the duty of a manager. Sometimes you get managers that are like accountants, and you're just like, he's an accountant. He has a degree in accounting, so put him in as a manager. And then he's like cutting off the book distribution because like it's not making any money right now. Like he didn't get the other part of his brain working, where the transcendental part. He knows how to do accounting, and of course, I'm not criticizing accountants of the world. Please excuse my offense to any accountants out there. You have to keep close track of it. But you also have to have transcendental vision at the same time. So both things have to be there to figure out. So my last point on this is that Prabhupada emphasizes in various places that we're trying to please the previous acharyas. And then he'll say, and that's all that matters. Put that in the equation. We're trying to please the previous acharyas, and people would say things to Prabhupada, yeah, but while you're doing like this, you're doing like, it's to please the previous acharyas. Whatever the result may be, that's up to Krishna. That's not our concern. In fact, even regarding book distribution, he said, when a devotee said, but Prabhupada, how are the devotees going to come? And he said, Lord Chaitanya never said that. He said, Jari Deki Tara Krishna Upadesh, Amargnai Guru Hanatari Desh. He said, go out and give it to other people. Prabhupada said, he didn't say that you had to cultivate them and make them devotees. He said, of course, that's nice. But so Prabhupada was able to deal on both sides and say, yes, in and of itself, it's perfect, but you should also do your level best to improve it as much as you can. So keep those two things in balance. Thank you very, very much for doing what you're doing. It's important to what you're doing, and one of the topmost important features is cooperation. The more we can see that we're one Krishna consciousness movement, we're not competing against each other, we're competing against Maya and ourselves. And the more we can cooperate to work together as one team, the more power we have to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpadurvishcha kripa sindhabevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha anantakoti vaishnaviniki.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.